When people think of children's horror games, their mind usually wanders to games like Five Nights at Freddy's, Five Nights at Freddy's but blue, and Five Nights at Freddy's but hideous. Mascot horror has kinda taken the whole horror genre by the balls and squeezed every drop of creativity out of it, and in my search for literally anything else to play besides FNAF Clone number 43, I remembered that the Luigi's Mansion series does actually exist. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with a certain little game called Luigi's Mansion 2 on the 3DS, or Dark Moon if you're evil. Something about the groovy music and slapstick comedy had 8-year-old me replaying it so much that my parents made me join the football team in an attempt to get me to stop obsessing over that little green fuck. But once I got older, I learned that most people don't even like 2 as much as the original. There are a million Reddit threads made by 30-year-olds who grew up playing the original, complaining about the shift in aesthetics, killing their enjoyment of their favourite children's video game series. So I knew I had to get involved and see if this was just another case of a grown adult saying that their favourite game, Glowing Go Goes to Space, is a cinematic masterpiece because that's the last time they remember feeling joy, or if there was actually something interesting there. Before getting started, I read this developer interview thing and learned that Luigi's Mansion was originally meant to be some sort of strange and fucked up Mario game on the N64 before an executive thought, Eureka! What if we put a green guy in there?
Yo, it's Gleep, what up, man?
And Miyamoto gave him a big wet kiss in the lips for such a brilliant idea. Nintendo owes a lot to this green guy because, thanks to him, they ended up creating the second most iconic thing to debut in September of 2001.
They hit the Pentagon!
When I booted up Luigi's Mansion for the first time, I instinctively went into the settings as if a GameCube game would have anything more than a volume slider, but was pleasantly surprised when I found that there was something more in there. It had a Pikmin button. The greatest fact about this game has to be that nearly half of the total disk space is taken up by an MP4 for the entire Pikmin 1 trailer. I guess because Miyamoto just really wants you to look at that video of his new little guys. I think if they just put an image of Miyamoto that said, "Please, please, please play my new game, it's called Pikmin," it would have had the same effect, but I appreciate the effort nonetheless. Anyways, Luigi's Mansion doesn't really have too much of a story, which I originally thought was going to be an issue.
Which?
Since I am fresh off of playing Red Dead Redemption 2, which is like if you handed your grandma a controller, put on a cowboy documentary, and then convinced her that she was controlling what was happening on screen. But then I remembered that the Mario game released prior to the Green Man had a plot that could be explained in one sentence. Yet bringing it up in a room of 20-plus-year-olds will cause cheers so loud that it sounds like you just announced that they added Freddy Fazbear to Smash. So, needless to say, I stopped being too worried about the story. When I first entered the mansion, I thought to myself, what would Luigi do? And then I spent 2 minutes killing myself with a door. This game is very good at creating an eerie and unsettling atmosphere, despite the fact that Luigi is present on screen at all times. There's very little natural light beyond the occasional lightning strike seen through the windows, with most lighting being from candles, which are slowly replaced by overhead lights as you evict more and more ghosts. The most effective way that this atmosphere is created though, which I never see anybody talk about alongside their praises of the game, is the fact that there's very little music in the mansion. Like, just listen to this beginning sequence when Luigi just enters the mansion. Gotcha, but you see how well that works to establish an atmosphere? Comparing that to the wacky, goofy little cutscene that the second game starts off with.
Oh, here I go!
Made me go, oh my god, I get it. Even when the game does decide to use real music, it tends to be that classic Luigi's Mansion type beat, or this cartoony ass music that plays when you're catching a ghost, which somehow fits the atmosphere perfectly. However, the lack of music doesn't mean the game is just dead silent at all times. While you're walking around, Luigi actually alternates between whistling the game's main theme or nervously humming it, depending on if he's dandering around an empty room or hallway, or if he's just walked into a room with a sinister aura, which manages to both give the game a very lonely, unsettling feeling and shows off Luigi's character a bit. There are actually a few neat ways that they try to show off Luigi's character in this game. since up to this point he was less of a unique character and more so just a palette-swapped Mario that occasionally showed up to fill out a roster, like Smash Bros. Melee.
Bro, stop! That's fucking weird!
Which gave him Mario's voice lines but slightly pitched up and sped up. And that isn't even the worst part of his Melee appearance.
Fucking what is that?
So yeah, they had a few neat ways of showing off Luigi's character in Luigi's Mansion, like letting him comment on miscellaneous household objects when you scan them with the Game Boy. You can also sit and slam the A button, and he'll just keep shouting for Mario like a little baby. The gameplay loop that this game relies on is incredibly simple but very effective. You flashbang a ghost, you suck it up with your vacuum, and then you spin the joystick around and pray Luigi doesn't fall over and eat shit. The game does give you a tutorial, but I can't lie, when I did it, I didn't really pay attention at all because I was banging my head to the music like it was at a Metallica concert and still managed to play the full game easy enough, which I guess shows off how intuitive the controls are. One thing I will say though, is that the C-stick being inverted really fucked with my head and I never got used to it. The lack of drop shadows in the game already messed really hard with my depth perception, but the additional challenge of controlling Luigi like a fighter jet got a bit frustrating sometimes, but not enough for it to be a real detriment to the gameplay experience. As you traverse through the mansion,
Oh shit!
you can collect 3 different medals that give your Poltergust's blow button an actual function beyond. You're given a fire medal, a water medal, and an ice medal. I'm not gonna lie, these medals feel very shoehorned in just to mix up the gameplay a bit in case someone was getting bored of running through the same hallway 50 times, because they don't serve any real purpose outside of 1 or 2 puzzles, and even then, when I got the fire medal, I spent 10 minutes running around the room I found it in, trying to escape, because I couldn't tell that those things in the corner were meant to be candles and I needed to light them. I mean, can you blame me though? They look like that shit you used to launch a bottle rocket. You progress through the game by defeating boss ghosts, which drop keys that unlock more and more of the mansion for Luigi to slowly tiptoe around whilst whistling the tune to his favourite 2012 mobile game. And sometimes you'll find traces of Mario,
Bro, nah, bro, this can't be right.
which Luigi will give truly insightful dialogue about, before bringing to this psychic ghost who will give you hints to Mario's whereabouts.
Where are they?
A few of the bosses will do a domain expansion and start beating Luigi to death like the baby and the sickly pile of purple goo, while others will force you to play a minigame in order to defeat them, like the twins who make you play hide and seek, or this random old lady who shoots lasers from her eyes and requires you to pelt her with balls of yarn. There is this really dumb section of the game in which all the lights go out, and you need to go to the basement to turn them back on, but first you have to find this old as shit ghost, and the only hint you get is he's probably chilling in a room with mirrors. Every room has mirrors in the game, motherfucker! So you're forced to run through the house getting jump scared by a bajillion different ghosts at every moment, just scouring every room in the hopes that the old bastard will be stanced up in one of them. There's also this annoying ass fight where you have to freeze a bunch of boos and capture them to defeat the boss.
What we're dealing with here is a little person in a glue trap.
But the issue with this is that the boos are coded to avoid you, so they stay 20 feet away and then all bum rush you at once, which makes catching every single one of them needed at the end of the fight really feckin' irritating. But while we're on the topic of boos, let's talk about them. Your Game Boy has a little sensor that tells you when boos are in a room, and you have to run around the room searching objects until you find the boo and suck it up. This is actually a pretty fun side quest, and it's not too hard, since even if the boo escapes your grasp, you can just chase it into the next room and grab it. But the issues arise once you start nearing the end of the game, and the boos begin having upwards of 200 health. This means that they basically always escape the vacuum at least 3 times, which forces you to run back and forth between different rooms trying to catch the fuckers. And it doesn't help that sometimes you get a bug where right after a boo goes through a wall,
He's fucking dead.
they barely take any damage.
I'm killing you. I'm killing you. I don't care about anything else. I don't give a shit about anything else.
So it means you have to run back and forth 5 or 6 times instead of 3, which made me start crashing out. Now, let's take a pause to read some of the notes that I took while struggling to catch the boos in this wonderful game of Luigi's Mansion. Whoever programmed these boos probably thinks kicking puppies is a fun pastime. These boos are what they meant when they said, "You just created a million Charlie Kirks, fuck, I hate them." And finally, to the lead developer of the boos,
Here's how I'll torture you, David. Number 1, the marrow furnace. I'll inject liquid metal into your...
Once you have enough keys and booze and pieces of Mario's clothing, you can get into the final room in the basement where you'll encounter King Boo, who will pull Luigi into the painting to fight him. Oh my god, like the Mario game! In the final boss fight, you have to face off against King Boo, who just got back from Furfest and really wants to show off his new Bowser-themed fursuit. If I'm being honest, this fight was just a big swing and a miss for me. First of all, it doesn't telegraph what you're meant to do at all. The game wants you to wait for him to shoot spike balls, pick one up, and then launch it at his head. The issue with that is that even if you manage to deduce that you're meant to do that, which I did, you have to be practically tickling the balls with your tongue to pick them up, meaning that they can just explode in your face and make you think you have to do something else. And even if you do manage to pick them up and get his head off, the lack of drop shadow means that trying to face the correct way to suck up King Boo is challenging. And it doesn't help, the Bowser head is hawking loogies at you the whole time.
Talk to it, man.
So you have to just pray that it misses, or else Boo will hop back into the head.
Fuck!
And you'll need to do the whole thing over again.
Let's kill him. Let's kill this guy. Let's beat him to death with hammers.
I think if the balls rolled towards you when you sucked them, it would make the fight feel way more bearable, but because they don't, it ends up being way more frustrating than it needed to be. Once you evict King Boo, you take Mario's painting back to Egad, who puts him through this fucked up and evil machine, and you get to hear the greatest Luigi voice line that has never been topped, even 25 years later. And then the credits roll. Overall, I think Luigi's Mansion exceeded my expectations by a large margin. I was expecting it to be way more of a snooze fest, but the oddly spooky atmosphere and engaging gameplay loop, paired with its relatively short runtime, made it feel like a very satisfying game to complete, and it didn't get to a point where it was getting repetitive, which is impressive, considering half the game is sprinting back and forth through the same 3 hallways. The mediocre final boss didn't actually drag the experience down that much, and I can say with confidence that despite how much rage the boos filled me with, at least they weren't as tedious to catch as that stupid fecking cat from Luigi's Mansion 3. Oh, the credits are almost done. I wonder what grade it gave me. Oh, well, at least I can still sit down and enjoy my favourite part of Luigi's Mansion as many times as I want. Thanks for watching.